Isn't it just fantastic when Hollywood takes one of your favourite films, modernises it, updates it, reboots it, puts Colin Farrell in it?
Worst movie ever!
I'm sure, as many of you are aware, in 2012 they decided to reboot Total Recall. Did anybody ask for a reboot of Total Recall? No, but Hollywood decided it was such a beloved film, it's guaranteed to make money. The original Total Recall is a fantastic film. It's got some very iconic moments in it and some of Arnie's biggest lines in it. Back in the day, when Total Recall was initially made, back in the late 80s, released in the early 90s, Arnold Schwarzenegger was still one of the biggest movie stars in the world, one of the biggest action stars. So surely when they remade the film, they were going to get the biggest action star at the time. But they went with Colin Farrell. Now, I'm not one of these people who just says reboots and remakes are all terrible, because it's simply not true. Reboots and remakes are not a new thing. All the Disney films are remakes. Scarface was a remake. So not all remakes are bad. The cash grab ones tend not to be great. So the 2012 version of Total Recall was directed by Len Wiseman. Len Wiseman, who's known for films like Underworld, Underworld Evolution, I believe, and Die Hard 4.0. Everybody's favourite Die Hard. So of course, since there's a previous version of this film, the Arnold Schwarzenegger version, we're going to be comparing this film to the previous version. It has to stack up because the original one is such a good film. Even today, it still stands up in my opinion. So when I decided to include this one on the list for worst movie ever, I decided I was going to watch both films, the 2012 version and the one that was released in 1990. Now, I watched both films before. As I said, I loved the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, and when I watched the 2012 version all the way back in 2012, I wasn't a big fan of it. So in both films, there's a lot of similarities. Same title character, he's married to the same woman, same bad guy, same premise on the outside. But there's a lot of stupid things in the newer one. So before we start comparing the two, let's first look at the 2012 version and give it its chance to show what a good or bad film it is. Based on the show, you probably know it's not going to be in the good category. At the beginning of the 2012 Total Recall, we're told that it's the end of the 21st century. We're told that global chemical warfare has wiped out life on most of the planet. You may be asking which planet if you haven't seen the film, because you may know that the original film was set on Mars, at least predominantly set on Mars. It begins on Earth, he goes to Mars. There's a slight mention of it in it that Colin Farrell says, I'd love to go to Mars or something to that effect, but this movie takes place entirely on the planet Earth. A huge change which changes a lot of things in the story and is the first major mistake with this film. But we'll get into that a little bit later on as to why it's a mistake. So it's established through this bit of text we get to start. We're on planet Earth, it's the end of the 21st century. There's only two parts of the world that have people in it. There's two territories. The United Federation of Britain, interesting choice to go with that because they're basically just including Europe. And the other part, the other territory, the second territory is called the Colony, which is just Australia. Now why they removed country names and went with more gang names, I don't know. We're then told that workers from the colony, which is Australia, travel to the United Federation of Britain, which is Europe, every day for work. They do this on the only available transport, which is called the Fall. The Fall is a vital part of this film. It's also the stupidest thing I have ever seen in a sci-fi film, because the Fall is basically a giant elevator that travels through the planet, including through the core of the planet, to go from Australia to Europe. They're replacing travelling to Mars with travelling from Australia to Europe in a big elevator. So the film begins in a scene that should have a seizure warning because it's just major flashing lights everywhere. And we see Colin Farrell running and we see Jessica Biel at some point. Long and short of it is Colin Farrell's captured while Jessica Biel, it looks like she's about to fall to her death, but she comes back later on. So then Colin Farrell shoots up awake in bed. He's having a nightmare. His wife wakes up beside him, and his wife is Kate Beckinsale. Kate Beckinsale is playing Laurie Quaid in this one, and Colin Farrell is playing Douglas Quaid, or Doug Quaid. This part is very similar to the original. I think like the first half an hour they keep a lot of stuff very similar to the original film, because at the beginning of Arnie's one, he wakes up in bed alongside Sharon Stone, who's playing his wife. She's playing Laurie Quaid and Arnie plays Doug Quaid. So very similar openings. Colin Farrell gets up, he goes about his day, he's heading off to work. As he's walking through town, we see bits of the technology in town. We see an ad for Recall. Then we see that there's been terrorist attacks. The rebel leader in this one is called Matthias. There's a major change because in the 1990s version, the rebel leader was called Quato. So Colin Farrell is getting ready to go to work. He's going to use the Fall. We see a graphic from the news show which shows the fall. It shows that the fall goes around the planet's core. We see that the departure time from the colony is 01, 35, 32. We then see that the arrival time at the UFB, or the United Federation of Britain, is 01, 42, 25. On my mathematics, that makes it a 7-minute journey from Australia to Europe. They haven't distinguished what speed they're going at, but they must be going at a hell of a speed through a planet without killing people, despite the immense heat that there would be. Another important factor in the 2012 version is that there's RoboCops. One is the new RoboCop, or the 2014 RoboCop. They look very similar, but yeah, RoboCop's very important because there was no RoboCops in the original. So getting back to it, Colin Farrell is now on the fall with his buddy Harry. And Harry is a character they've kept from the first film because he did have a co-worker called Harry in the first film. So now we see that Colin Farrell's job is in a factory where they make the RoboCops, which becomes important later on because it's basically how he destroys a RoboCop who's trying to kill him. Again, it's a different job than what Arnie had, because Arnie was just a builder on a building site. He was using a jackhammer mainly to show off his muscles. Two different jobs, and it's established that there's a new guy in the job, and when they're getting ready for work, Colin Farrell asks Harry about recall and what does he think of it, and Harry tells him it'll mess with his mind and he'd be crazy to do it, which is exactly what Harry says to him in the first film. But the difference now is that there's a new guy in work, and Colin Farrell's been asked to show him around, and the new guy tells Colin Farrell that recall is some of the best memories that he has. He's done recall 3 times, and they're some of the best memories he has. Recall implants memories in your mind that you believe are real. The stupid thing, and perhaps the reason they didn't do it in the original, having someone who's already done it tell him, oh, it's great, is because if you know that those memories are fake, what's the point? Because the whole point of recall in the original one is that you're going to have these memories that you will believe are real. Initially in the original film, they're being sold as holidays. You can have the memories of a holiday without the expense of a holiday, without the annoying travel, without the annoying parts of the holiday, and your holiday will be 100% perfect, down to every detail. Every meal you have will be perfect, that type of thing. They offer you a perfect experience. In the new one, it just seems to be a recreational thing, but this new guy tells Colin Farrell, the memories are great, they're some of the best memories I have, but clearly he knows he got those memories from recall, therefore those memories are fake, and you know they're fake, so there'd be some disassociation in your mind there, surely. It just muddied the waters that didn't need to be muddied. Really unnecessary element. And there seems to be a lot of that in this film, where they tried to plug gaps from the original film, but nobody was giving out about the original film having gaps in the story, because we were all just looking at the great action and the great boobed lady. So moving on, Colin Farrell now decides he's going to go get recall. On his way home from work, he decides he's going to recall and he's going to get treatment. Similar in the first one, Arnie talks to Harry, Harry tells him not to do it, and the next cut is Arnold Schwarzenegger walking into the recall center and booking his holiday. Similar time frame there, apart from the part where we see Colin Farrell working on a robot and the new guy telling him that recall is great. Colin Farrell is going to like the seedy part of town. The girl walks up to him and asks what does he want, and then for the sake of it they have the 3-boobed girl back. In the original one, it's explained that there's these mutants and freaks being exposed to radiation because they were all put in domes, which are cheap domes, didn't protect them from radiation. They all ended up deformed. That's why the 3-boobed girl is in that part of Mars. The one on Earth seems to be just the 3-boobed girl for the sake of 3-boobed girl. But getting back to it again, Colin Farrell goes in, tells him what he wants. John Cho is playing the guy in charge of recall. So he tells him he could have any adventure he wants. He could be a spy, he could be a double agent, he could do all this stuff, which is different, as I say, from the original again, because in the original Arnie was being sold a holiday package and being told he could have these optional extras where he could be anyone he wants to be on his holiday. He could be a millionaire, he could be a sports star, he could be a celebrity, or he could be a special agent, and Arnie picks special agent, which is why Colin Farrell then also picks a special agent, because he's playing the same character. So now Colin Farrell is going to be put into the recall machine and given his adventure memory. In the original, Arnie is also going into the recall machine to be given his holiday, but Arnie's been asked a lot of questions beforehand. What does he want to do on his holiday? Does he want aliens to be involved? What sort of woman does he want to be his love interest in it? All these type of things which Colin Farrell isn't asked. An important factor here is that we see Arnie close his eyes. It's like he's having an operation where he's been given an anesthetic and he's slowly fading down. He's slowly losing consciousness. So it looks like he's in the recall machine and the stuff's being given to him to throw the audience off the scent. So even the audience think maybe this whole thing is just part of recall. In the new one, in the 2012 version, which is the whole point of this video, Colin Farrell is awake the entire time. There's no disassociation between he might or he might not be in the recall machine. Very clear, he's not. Everything's stopped before we see anything. He doesn't pass out, he doesn't close his eyes even. He's awake the entire time, and all of a sudden John Cho just starts freaking out, tells them to stop, and then soldiers burst through the door, and then Colin Farrell just happens to know how to fight them off. That's the only thing that makes you think, okay, maybe he did go into recall. So similar in both films, Doug Quaid goes home and he tells his wife Laurie Quaid what's happened. He's freaking out, he turns off the lights, he tells his wife about what happened in the recall center, and she's really pissed off that he's gone to recall. In the 2012 version, Kate Beckinsale sees on TV that there's been a terrorist attack at the recall center, and she sees that it was clearly her husband who attacked all the people, and as they're hugging she starts to choke Colin Farrell, and this is when the films begin to deviate from their stories. In Arnie's version, his wife, she gets annoyed and she starts fighting Arnold Schwarzenegger, but she ends up calling someone, and the person she calls is a man called Richter. And Richter is the main guy who hunts down Arnie throughout the film. In the 2012 version, they combined the roles of Richter and Laurie Quaid into one, which kind of worked for the better because it made Kate Beckinsale's character a complete badass. When I was watching the 2012 version, I forgot that it was directed by Len Wiseman, so I thought that there was a lot of underworld vibes from Kate Beckinsale's character. Maybe he just gets the best out of her in those type of roles, but Kate Beckinsale is very good in this. So Kate Beckinsale and Colin Farrell are now fighting. This fight happens in the original film as well, between Doug and Laurie Quaid. They're having their big fight, and then Kate Beckinsale goes for the very interesting fight move up the groin to the face. Then they have the moment when Colin Farrell basically gets the upper hand. I think he gets her in like a headlock, or he gets the gun to the head, and she starts to tell him everything. She explains that she's not his wife, that she's a UFB intel agent who's been assigned to watch him. She says that 6 weeks ago she didn't even know him. She also informs him that his memory's been replaced with a life that he believes he has lived. This is all very similar to what happens in the original film too.
Talk. I said talk. My wife.
So the long and short of it is that Colin Farrell gets away and Kate Beckinsale goes after him. He goes through a window and he's running through town, and Kate Beckinsale's going after him. She's ringing people to get help. Then as they're running away comes another stupid point in this film, because Colin Farrell's hand starts to blink and to ring. So they have this thing which is set to the end of the 21st century. They're supposed to have all this amazing technology, and even in the original they did their best for the time to have futuristic technology. Like they had video calls, which at a time in the late 80s was only stuff of science fiction. They had robot taxi drivers, which even in real life we're only beginning to see the start of stuff like that now with self-driving cars. Now they tried their best, they didn't get everything right, but in this one the big technology they had was he used his hand as a phone. There's a point where he just puts his hand up to his ear to take a phone call like this. They could surely come up with something better than talking into your hand. So the guy who he's on his hand phone call to tells him to put his hand against a piece of glass, and when he does that, a big computer screen comes out of his hand, Minority Report style. We see a video call, just a random guy we haven't seen before, and the random guy says that he used to work with Colin Farrell, and that he told him that if he ever reappeared on some computer system, I think, to call him, and he tells him to get a key and gives him information for a safety deposit box. In the original Arnie film, Arnie's just in a hotel, a guy calls him and turns out the guy's on a payphone outside, and he leaves him a briefcase. It is a bit different there. Then we see that Kate Beckinsale gets a call from Cohagen. Cohagen in this film is played by Bryan Cranston. So the cast of this film is pretty damn strong. You got Colin Farrell, you got Jessica Biel, and you've got Kate Beckinsale. On top of that, you've got Bryan Cranston, who everybody knows is a fantastic actor. And there's a plethora of other stars throughout this film. It's a very good cast overall. Kate Beckinsale gets the call from Cohagen, and he tells Kate Beckinsale's character not to kill Quaid, he wants him alive. Richter, in the original film, also gets that call and is told not to do it. But both characters, Kate Beckinsale's character and Richter, they tell their guards to shoot to kill, disobeying Cohagen's orders. Then we see Colin Farrell go get his safety deposit box. In the safety deposit box, there's like this collar thing, there's various IDs, and the most important thing that's in the case is a video from himself. Doug Quaid has sent himself a message from the past, knowing he'd get to that point at some time and he would need his own help. In the original Arnie version, he also gets a video call from his earlier self. In the call, he tells himself, anything you think about your own life is not real. His previous self confirms what Kate Beckinsale told him earlier in the film. After this, Colin Farrell decides he's going to the United Federation of Britain, so he has to travel along the fall, get to customs, get through customs without being discovered because they're looking for him now. He uses the collar thing to disguise himself, but it goes wrong. He's being asked questions. For some reason the thing malfunctions. This also happens in the original, except Arnie had like a helmet thing that could transform into a face. Arnie uses it to explode and he gets away, whereas Colin Farrell just runs and beats up people and gets away. So Colin Farrell is trying to escape from all the bad guys and he's running away, and he somehow ends up on a freeway or a motorway, and there's hover cars. Out of nowhere, a car pulls up, opens the door, and it's Jessica Biel. I don't know why. There was nothing like this in the original. In the original, goes and finds a woman called Melina. Maybe the wrong character name, but I think it's Melina. Let's go with Melina. And he goes and finds Melina on Mars in a bar. At this point, you can really see the difference in the age rating. I'm not sure what the age rating for the 2012 version was, but it seems like the 80s version was definitely an R-rated film because there was a lot more nudity and violence. And I think Melina is supposed to be like a prostitute on Mars, so they didn't have that in the other one. In the 2012 version, they just had Jessica Biel just be there. Also, when Arnie's trying to get away, he grabs a guy and uses him as a human shield. Just a member of the public, he grabs him and uses him as a human shield. He's ripped apart by bullets. Colin Farrell doesn't do that. He just gets away. There's not much blood or fighting or violence. I think that's why the 80s version is better. So Colin Farrell gets into the car with Jessica Biel and they're having a hover car chase. Kate Beckinsale appears in the hover car. There's other security guards in the hover car. They're all chasing down the hover car. So Colin Farrell at some point ends up driving the hover car. He comes up with the great plan to get away. He turns off the magnets or whatever, keeps it hovering. They just fall out of the sky. The others all fly past them and they drop. He doesn't turn the magnets back on so that they save themselves at the last minute or anything. The car just lands. It lands on a normal four-wheeled car. And then we see there's other cars driving around. So there's hover cars and there's normal driving cars. Why they needed both, I'm not too sure, but they have them. So when they crash, Colin Farrell is fine, but Jessica Biel is conked out and there's blood. Colin Farrell decides he's going to bring her with him. So he goes to his own apartment and he starts playing around with things, and he sits down at a piano and he starts playing piano, and then he realizes this is weird, I wasn't able to do this before. And then he finds the one key on the piano which doesn't work, and he replaces it with a thing he got from his Hey deposit box, plays a tune, a hologram of his previous self plays, and this is where he gets the same information that Arnie got from his video call much earlier in the film. So the recording that Colin Farrell sees, he can interact with, he can ask it questions. Previous self tells him that Cohagen has been orchestrating the terrorist attacks, an excuse to build his robo-army. Hologram version of Colin Farrell explains that there's a kill code for robots, has the code in his mind. He then tells him to get to Matthias, that Matthias can extract the code from his brain and they can win the war. Colin Farrell and Jessica Biel, who's now awake, they decide they're going to escape. They go down to the bottom floor and there's loads of Robocop everywhere. They're surrounded and this scene just looks terrible, overblown. It's lens flare city, it doesn't look good. As they're there, Harry walks in, Colin Farrell's co-worker from earlier, and he starts talking to Colin Farrell. This is also a big change from the original film. In the original film, before Arnold Schwarzenegger has to fight with his wife, Harry and a lot of Harry's friends or Harry's goons actually attack Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they all end up getting killed, including Harry. Harry gets killed very early into the film. I think it's only about half an hour in, and in Arnie's version, just a random guy appears at Arnie's hotel room on Mars and tells Arnie, you're still in the recall machine. But in the 2012 version, they kind of combine Harry and the guy who appeared in Arnie's room to tell me he was just in recall into one character. So Harry's the one who now tells Doug Quaid that he's still in recall. And we see Kate Beckinsale outside the building, and she's been held back by police and pretend to be grieving. Harry tells Colin Farrell, while Jessica Biel standing beside him, that you're still in recall, you're still sitting in the machine, went wrong, I'm sitting beside you, your wife's holding your hand. Harry then tells Colin Farrell that he has to shoot Jessica Biel to escape the dream. Colin Farrell considers it. It looks like he's going to do it. He just picks up the gun and he shoots Harry. In the original film, the guy who came to visit Arnie was trying to convince Arnie to shoot himself. So now again, Colin Farrell and Jessica Biel are trying to run away because Kate Beckinsale's gone back into badass mode and she's chasing them again. They're in a hallway and Jessica Biel's hiding behind one corner and Kate Beckinsale's coming down the hall. There's some reference from Kate Beckinsale about her kissing Colin Farrell just to piss off Jessica Biel's character, because I guess women's only motivation in films can be their boyfriends or husbands or whatever. Fight in the elevator where Kate Beckinsale is fighting both Colin Farrell and Jessica Biel, and then there's one of the Robocops also fighting Colin Farrell, so the women can have female fight and the Colin Farrell can fight a robot. The fight ends when Kate Beckinsale pulls out a bomb. Colin Farrell and Jessica Biel jump out of the elevator just in time, so they get away, and Colin Farrell and Jessica Biel decide they have to go see Matthias. As soon as they get there, they meet Matthias. And Matthias puts Colin Farrell in the recall chair, and they can all see, I guess, his thoughts. And all of a sudden, a video of Cohagen appears, congratulating Quaid for helping them find Matthias. And then all the bad guys rush in. They crash through the walls. They have found Matthias. In Arnie's version, Arnie has just met Quato. Quato's like this weird alien baby thing that's grown out of some guy's stomach because he's one of the freaks from Mars. In both versions, Cohagen appears, and I guess his rival is killed off. In one it's Matthias, in one it's Quato. In Arnie's version, Cohagen explains to Quaid that he's been a double agent all along. He plays a video for him of his previous self alongside Cohagen, explain to himself he has in fact been a double agent. They put Quaid into the recall machine and give him Hauser's memories again. In Colin Farrell's version, Kate Beckinsale and Cohagen are now in the room. Jessica Biel, Matthias, and Colin Farrell have all been captured. Cohagen, who's played by Heisenberg, then tells Matthias that there is no kill code. That was just a distraction that they could figure out where Matthias was, because Matthias has been hiding. Out of nowhere, Cohagen shoots Matthias. He tells Colin Farrell that he's a double agent who just never realised he was a double agent. He then tells Colin Farrell he's going to give him a second chance for leading him to Matthias. He gets the Robocops to put Colin Farrell in the recall chair, and then Cohagen tells him, I'm going to bring the old you back. So they're basically doing the same thing they did in the original film, and there's no video of Colin Farrell telling himself that you're a double agent. So Cohagen and Kate Beckinsale leave. Colin Farrell is strapped into the chair. I mean, it's only Colin Farrell being strapped into the chair. Jessica Biel's not being strapped into the chair like Melina was. Jessica Biel is taken away, in fact. Then as Colin Farrell's being put into the chair, one of the guards gives him a look, and we realise it's the guy who gave him the hand phone call earlier. That sounds really dirty. We realise it's the guy who gave him the hand phone call and initially started the whole thing by telling him to go get the safety deposit box. In the original film, Arnie just breaks out of the chair. So Colin Farrell, in his version, kills all the guards and escapes and goes after Cohagen. The difference was that Cohagen in Arnie's version is on Mars. Cohagen in Colin Farrell's version is on the Fall. And Colin Farrell just appears on the Fall, and he just goes and gets Jessica Biel very easily. So Colin Farrell and Jessica Biel are once again reunited, and they're trying to escape. They're running through the Fall now. Kate Beckinsale's on her way, and Colin Farrell decides he's going to open the emergency door. They've just passed the core of the Earth as well. So the outside temperature, even on the Fall, even traveling at ridiculous speed, would still be ridiculously hot. But he just opens the door and they climb out. And they climb up along the Fall. Kate Beckinsale looks up and she's realised they're after climbing to the top, so she warns Cohagen. Colin Farrell and Jessica Biel get to the top, and Cohagen's waiting for him with his guards. Another fight scene kicks off. Colin Farrell is fighting with a robot. Jessica Biel kind of gets away. And Cohagen is about to shoot Colin Farrell. He has him dead to rights. And out of nowhere, a plane or a helicopter thing rises up through the ground, and Jessica Biel sitting in it. She used that to destroy all the robots. While she's doing that, Cohagen runs away. Very different to the original at this point. Very different. Colin Farrell is fighting one more robot, but Jessica Biel's guns have run out of bullets. And it's clearly said that there's no bullets left. But conveniently, Colin Farrell is fighting one of the robots that he made in his job. He just rips off the middle chest plate, which he had put on previously in the film. It was just stupid. And then more robots appear, and suddenly Jessica Biel's guns have bullets again. Then Cohagen is back, but this time he has a knife. So a fight breaks out between Cohagen and Colin Farrell's character. Cohagen cuts Colin Farrell, but then Colin Farrell disarms him. Then as they're fighting, a bomb which Colin Farrell planted earlier when he was running away goes off, which distracts Cohagen. Then Colin Farrell gets the better of him and beats him up. And then another explosion goes off, this time closer to Kate Beckinsale. Again, it's a bomb Colin Farrell planted earlier on when he was running away. Then because of the explosions, the Fall is about to fall. Back to the fight. Cohagen has his knife back. Somehow Colin Farrell ends up with a knife, and Cohagen loses the fight after getting stabbed by Colin Farrell. Then because of the explosions, Jessica Biel's plane kind of crashes without even moving. It just tips over and slides. And Colin Farrell helps her out of the plane. Then we see the Fall just crash and explode. Cohagen's still on there. Cohagen is dead. We don't actually see Cohagen die. Kind of similar to the first film, because in the original film, Cohagen is fighting Arnie, and basically Cohagen gets sucked out into the Mars atmosphere, and his head starts to expand. His eyes start to bulge. Really gruesome, but he basically suffocates on Mars. Jumping back to Colin Farrell and Jessica Biel jump off the Fall just in time. We then see that Colin Farrell is knocked out, and Jessica Biel is holding on to him and pleading with him to still be alive. So now they fade to black, and when it's black, we hear two lines, one of which is from Harry earlier in the film where he says, "It will mess with your mind." Another one from John Cho's character which says, "Tell us your fantasy, we'll make it reality." So this is the point, 2 hours into the film, when they try to muddy the waters of, is he in recall, is he not in recall? In the next part, Colin Farrell wakes up and Jessica Biel is there to comfort him, and she says something to him, and all of a sudden Colin Farrell jumps up and grabs her by the throat. He just attacks her out of nowhere, and she's trying to figure out why. She's saying stuff to him, and then Colin Farrell explains to her she doesn't have a scar on her hand, which he showed him earlier matches his scar. And we see that Kate Beckinsale is using the same collar thing Colin Farrell was using in the film to disguise herself. This leads to Kate Beckinsale and Colin Farrell having another fight scene where ultimately Colin Farrell kills Kate Beckinsale's character. I guess he kind of had to kill off her character because both characters her character is based on, Laurie Quaid and Richter, are both killed by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the original film. Then when Kate Beckinsale's being killed, we see Jessica Biel, the real Jessica Biel, appear, and the two of them get together and they embrace or they kiss or something like that, and happy ending. It's amazing the difference between the two films, as they start out very similar, and when you watch the two films back to back, you can see so many similarities and so many things where there was good intentions with the newer one. Like combining Richter and Laurie Quaid into one character, I think gave Kate Beckinsale a much better character in this film. There's an interesting call combining Harry and the guy who tried to convince Arnie that he was still in the recall machine. But I don't understand why they completely changed the story and completely changed the setting, and whoever thought up the idea of the fall is the biggest idiot in the movie industry, because it doesn't make any sense and it ruins the entire film. Now, the way I was describing the 2012 version, you may think I don't like the film. Well, I don't. But it's not all bad. There is good elements to this film. As I've said a few times, I think Kate Beckinsale is very good in this film. I think this is one of Colin Farrell's better films, as much shit as I was giving him at the start. Colin Farrell has some good films and some bad films. We don't talk about Phone Booth, but The Recruit was pretty good. And he's pretty good in the character he's given. He doesn't try to be Arnie 2.0. He just does his own thing. And he does it fairly well. Jessica Biel, I think the film wouldn't be better or worse without her in it. That's not her fault. That's just bad writing for her character. The main thing I think this film suffers from is that it's a reboot. If this film was called The Kill Code or The Robot Army or Colin Farrell Saves the Day, if it was called anything other than Total Recall, I think it would have got a better reception. Once you get past the fall thing and how stupid the fall is, and if they just set it on Mars, and then didn't call it Total Recall, everyone would say, oh, this film's pretty cool. That's similarities to Total Recall, like all the same character names. As a reboot of the franchise or a remake, awful, a 2 out of 10. As a standalone film, it probably could have been a 6 out of 10. Although we don't have a scoring system on this show yet, so if you've seen both films, the 2012 version and the 1990 version, let me know in the comments below. What do you think? Does the 2012 version stand up in your opinion? Is it the worst movie ever? You guys tell me.